I want to go over rack position. I feel super confident about this conversation. One, because I do it really well, but two, I've seen this done really bad. And it's one that in our facility, we highly encourage from day one to work on these proper rack positions because we're overhead a lot, we mess with the barbell a lot. We want to get our athletes in a proper rack position. So first we define the rack. If we identify what the purpose of the rack is for the general structure of any type of equipment, the rack is a supporting structure that holds or maintains load, right? A rack you would go to the store buy, one that you would use to back squat or front squat or bench, that's a machine, right? Or a piece of equipment that allows you to place load on top of in a safe manner. Now that is what we are artificially creating with our bodies, right? It's pretty neat when you think about it, especially when it's done beautifully. People can just sit and hold rack positions with immense amount of load, but it has to be done properly. There's huge limiting factors here that I see most often. One is wrist mobility, two is shoulder mobility, and then three, believe it or not, is awareness. Most athletes just don't have awareness or can manipulate their bodies the way they're supposed to. And in the rack position, it is even paramount. So let me show you what an appropriate rack position is. Now this is typically, obviously, maintained for Olympic lifting, right? Because of those overhead movements like the push presses or the split jerks that you might see in Olympic lifting. But it's not also left to there. I think good, strong military presses should be maintained from here. I think it's a good initiation and conversation for cleans or front squats. So the transferability is endless. Just like we would set a rack, we're trying to set those hands outside the shoulders so the bar has a position to rest. Now this is not a good position. When we identify what a rack is, we know that there's two contact points. Those are the contact points of the J hooks, those pieces or devices of a piece of equipment that allows you to put the bar across its setting. That setting is right here. Notice here, this is not a contact point. The collarbone is not a contact point. What you're looking for is being able to manipulate yourself so that we can get contact points on those shoulders. I call it puffing the shoulder. It's a term that I use here that really allows me to understand what my shoulders are doing. If it's a self-awareness issue, using the cue puff the shoulder will allow them to get their shoulder from depressed to elevated, from depressed to elevated, okay? So if we know there's no mobility restrictions and they're still not setting that bar in the rack position, it has to do with awareness alone. Puff the shoulders is the great one, is the most common I use. There's also just giving tactile cues, touching them on the shoulder, letting them know where that bar should be supported, because that's what we're trying to create, a position of support. Which one looks more supported, this one or this one? Definitely this one. Now there's some huge requirements for flexibility, right? From my wrist to my shoulders. This thing is rested. Notice there's some nuances to this. The elbows are in front of the load. I'm trying to stick those forearms vertical. When I go through presses, or push presses, or push jerks, or power jerks, it's still always coming back to rack. Now, there's also a theory of how much am I willing to give up through the wrist. Now, I think long-term setting that bar off your fingers to allow it to sit on the shoulders is a bad idea. We're talking a major wrist pain, forearm pain, super uncomfortability. It does not look comfortable, and you can see it from a mile away. From the side, let me show you what that is. Remember, this is where we want to be. We don't want to be rolled off the fingers to try to set up a rack position. This is not something I'm willing to give up. It's super uncomfortable, and it's not something I encourage any coach to teach. From the side, this is what this looks like with the fingers rolled out. That looks like this. So sure, I've set it on the rack, but what did I give up in the process? We do not want it set here. I want to grab that bar and set it top. Ideally, in a perfect world, the athlete is able to death grip the bar and set full rack position. Unfortunately, this is not a perfect world, and you're going to have issues with athletes that either death grip the bar and can't get it on the rack, or the opposite, they get it on the rack, but they compensate the grip position, right? Ideal world, and what we should be getting our athletes to do is to death grip and rack position. Now, again, this is advanced. I understand that. Not everyone can walk in the door and do this. But end goal, this is where we should be. This is supporting structure for load, right? It's safe, zero pressure on my shoulders and wrists. This is where I want to be moving through those high, like speed, technical movements, all right? Now, a great drill that we use, that you should do every time you endorse the rack position, is a mobility drill. My favorite mobility drill for building external rotation is this one right here. What we do is we get our athletes, and I'm gonna make this look easier than it is, and I apologize, but this is where you wanna work towards. Instead of getting it here, we're gonna put it on our back. And from our back, I'm gonna drive my elbows in front of me until my triceps get parallel. Now you can see the extreme external rotation that is happening with my wrist. I'm still death gripping, I'm not doing this, it's a common mistake, right? It makes the athletes think they're externally rotating, but they're not. It's death grip, elbows in front, triceps parallel to the ground. You can see how much external rotation I'm creating. Now the other compensation pattern, I call it big belly or hyperextended back. Don't do that, stay vertical. Get through that, get those athletes to squeeze that butt and flex those quads, that'll keep them there. This position is just doing these as repetitions with the barbell. Man, this feels good. So when I get it here, this is a joke, right? Because that feels like a modification because I moved the bar up 2 to 4 inches. It's in that rack position again. It's setting across the shoulders. I'm gripping it as best as I can. I'm not trying to give up too much with the grip because it's going to place pressure on the wrist. Where I don't want to give up the rack position so much, I start jarring the collarbone, right? The ladies hate this movement because they're not creating self-awareness of where the bar contact should be. They start jamming their sweet little collarbones. They start bruising themselves. Husbands think I'm beating the poor ladies. I'm not doing that. But we have to understand where they're at, what we're looking for in the first place, what the end goal is for safety and ability. Rack position across those shoulders, try to maintain a good grip, externally rotating, practice some of those mobility drills. I love this movement. It's one of my favorite movements, but it's one I also see done commonly and horrendously wrong, horrendously incorrect. Practice those, work through that. Again, these are one of those movements that over time, as you keep practicing, they will indirectly improve your mobility, but you have to get in there and practice these things. I've been doing CrossFit for 8 years, and I feel like there's still some major improvement that I can stick in that piece. Try it. Let me know what you think.